3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing.
And welcome back to the podcast. And here we are in the not as sunny as last year Isle of Man TT. I think the weather's been a bit sketchy on that side of things. But this show has been brought to you by the amazing WTF Racing and the Here Racing at the Isle of Man TT. And without them guys, we'd be stuffed alongside with JCT Truck and Trailer Hire, Truck and Trailer Rental. That's terrible. So as you can see for our YouTube element, we haven't got the boards on because we are in the new studio, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit more detail. And obviously, Bennetts. Track days are open, by the way. There is plenty of room left on the brands and the Cadwell. Expert instructions. You've got all your favourite riders going down. And if anyone's wondering, I'm not going, so everyone will not get a headache if they attend down that side of things. We have an individual episode sponsor for this one, and I'm going to have to spell it out because I think that's it. I'm going to lean on Piggy here. That's racebikes.com, isn't it? So if you type
with my eyes.
Get the specs on.
I can just see
specs on. There you are. So we've got I'm going to spell it RACEBUYKZ.com. So the website and socials back up and live very soon to sell your race bikes, classic bikes, as well as parts, motorbikes and everything ready to go, and now being run by Charlie and Craig. So thank you so much for coming on for this. Please check them out. But let's just jump straight into it. And I don't know what I'm more excited about here. You know what I mean? The host or the guest. And I'll tell you what, I think this is the perfect opportunity to give to our audio listeners, because the YouTube listeners would have already seen them.
Yeah.
But tonight,
they'll all be turning off.
Piggy, you haven't got it in yet, and I've already spoiled it for everyone. Tonight we are joined, my co-host, Piggy.
It's lovely to be here.
Yes.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. First time in van, and yeah.
Are you nervous, son?
A little bit, yeah. I've never done this side of it, have I?
I know.
No. You know what I mean? There's some pressure on with guests, isn't there?
There is some pressure, and I'll tell you what, Peggy, I'm going to put you even under more pressure. I'm going to let you introduce our guest for the evening.
Right, it's multiple winner at Scarborough. Manx is on TT.
Southern Hundreds.
British Championships, Southern Hundreds.
Nice, Macau Grand Prix racer.
Yeah,
podium.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've got to get the podium in there. I like it. But
it says Mr. Chris Palmer.
I love it, mate. Very smooth. You're going to put me out the job here. I'm absolutely loving it. How the devil are you, Chris?
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, brilliant. It's took you a long time to get me on here, but here we are.
I tell you what, mate, honestly, you are the most patient man I've ever met in my life. It's like every time we bump into you at Oliver's Mountain, like, you're looking after Ryder, but we'll talk about that later on in the show, you know, what you've been going on with. But you are, sorry, I'm still getting used to the new studio. Before we go down that, we are in the back of a black race van, so the rumours have already been flying round that we've got Chris Palmer jammed
in the back of a van.
In the back, anything for 30 quid.
30 quid.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But the best thing is, before we got going, you were like, I hope you've done your homework. And as you can see, I'm already, the sweat's running off us. And because you do a lot of television work now. You do a lot of, like, you've helped out down to there, the commentary element as well. So
yeah, more radio than anything else. Yeah. So yeah, that's when I retired from racing. The very next year I went straight into the radio job, and I fell on that just by accident. I was, me being little and cheeky, I just said to the guys at Max Radio, you want to get me on this job? And all of a sudden it just happened, and I was like panicking then because I was useless. Do you know what I mean? It was like, but yeah, no, it came good in the end. It was all right.
No, you're smooth and calculated. I feel like I'm just going to sit back and relax a little bit on this side of things.
I thought you fell into it well, and you were still sort of current with the knowledge of it all.
That was good because it was literally the year after, so it was pretty good. But I mean, Kinners looks after me, you know what I mean, when I do it with him. He sort of, if he sees me starting to stutter, he'll chime in and save me basically. But I did it for, I think, 6 years TT, and then on
the commentary team.
Yeah, with Kinners, in the Park Ferme and stuff. So it's been longer than you think.
Bloody hell!
I know. I've been retired 11 years this year.
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
You're not old enough to say that.
No, well, yeah.
How long have you lived on the Isle of Man? So obviously, for people that don't know, you're a Cumbrian lad, born and bred, aren't you?
Yeah, from Brough by Sands near Carlisle, and I moved here in September 2000. So it'll be 24 years in September.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's what I think sometimes as well. Yeah. Where's that gone?
That is terrifying. But I'll tell you what, he moved over for love. But let's go back.
I did.
But before we go down that tail of things, let's go. And this is what I love about having new guests and lads who are as... You are a legend. I'm going to blow him up straight away, mate. Like,
For all the wrong reasons, that's the problem.
But we're going to get into that back when racing was proper racing.
Yeah.
But let's go from the beginning, mate. How did you get into racing?
Wow, that is a long story. Basically, my dad, my uncle, my granddad were all car racers, and I suppose my dad thought I was going to just go four wheels. And I did have a test drive in a Formula Ford car at Knockhill once, and it didn't float my boat, to be fair. Just didn't do it. And all my mates were a bit older than me at the time, and they were all doing motocross, scrambling back in them days. And I just went down that road. I went motocross, and I wasn't that good, but I was all right. And I came over here to do. We all of us came over here, a few of us in the back of an old van, and we did the motocross meeting in between practice week and race week. And of course, we then were out on the course looking, watching, and TZ350s were going past, and I was like, "That's for me. I'm having a go at this." So we literally went back home that weekend, and I bought, believe it or not, a KH400 Kawasaki air-cooled triple, which was not current, wasn't, against LC350s and stuff like that. You just didn't stand it, and I broke my wrist second time on it, and
So you're older, you were quite late into it then.
I was 19 then,
right?
Yeah, 1981, July 1981 I started.
So straight into so your taste of tarmac was watching the TT
I tasted the tarmac, all right. Second meeting. Yeah. I knew what all that was about. Yeah.
So I tell you what, I must ask, right? So you've come from four wheels. How did you, four-wheel family?
Yeah.
You've come from a four-wheel family on that side of things.
Yeah.
How did your dad take that?
Well, he wasn't best pleased, I'll be honest, back in the day. He more or less said, if I didn't ride motorbikes at all, he would help me buy my first car. So that was his way of keeping me off two wheels. Didn't work. I was riding them at 12 or something, you know what I mean, behind his back. And then I fell off one. And I didn't damage it, but it wouldn't start. And I was panicking like hell because my dad was going to find out that I'd been on a motorbike and this, that, and the other. In the end,
was it actually that bad?
Oh yeah, no, he was. What's the word I'm looking for? Not strict, but he was adamant that he didn't want me on two wheels at the time. Which is, I know it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But maybe that's why I fought against it. Maybe that's why I went for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the motocross thing was, all my mates did it. So I went down that road, and then motocross bikes just got taller and taller and taller, and I didn't. So I've got the shortest legs in the world. You know what I mean? I was like,
no, second
shortest then maybe. But So that sort of, I was quite glad, and I was pretty crackers on a road bike at the time. You know what I mean? I was obviously, I did stupid things and, went too fast, and I was going to end up hurting myself and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. So it's the same route as a lot of people went down. They thought, look, I need to get on the track before, you know what I mean? And that was, yeah.
I tell you what, I must ask, Mike, and I failed to ask this question to most of our guests, but what was motocross like back then? We're getting up and catching up with your mates and then riding to the track, or did you have to get a van, or
believe
what
it
was
or
it
not,
like?
in the back of mini pickups and stuff like that. So the bikes, we had like an old bed frame jammed in the back of a mini pickup, and then two Makos nosed in and with the arse end hanging out the back on this bed frame, and all the petrol cans thrown in the back and stuff. Just whatever we could get there in, old J4 vans with sliding doors and stuff like that. That's what we came to the TT in, an old J4 van, and it burst the radiator on Bowes Moor coming up over the tops, and we had to stop and top it up with water. It was just crackers back in there. It was just good fun, good fun it was, honestly. It was like, the vans were always knackered and stuff.
But how many... Sorry, go on.
Riding on road, though, back then, roads weren't as busy, were they?
No, not at all. No.
Sort of police weren't about. There were no cameras. So you could proper fly about.
Yeah.
Like I said, crazy, really.
Yeah. When I lived 6 miles out of town in Bruff by Sands, a little village, and all the lads in the village all had motorbikes and cars, and we all knocked out together in a big gang. It was great, good fun. And we used to ride into Carlisle, and there was a pub called The Board, and it was a bit like the Promenade. It was like there was just more every Saturday afternoon. The bikes were lined up and down, and everybody was obviously having a sherbet, like. And then everybody would ride home, and sometimes you'd stay in and go to this. There was a rock nightclub in Carlisle, and
I've even heard about that, man.
Well, it was great. Like there were great times, and it got spoiled a little bit because one of the boys, there was a Chinese just up off a side street, and one of the boys flipped his bike outside the Chinese, and obviously very, very drunk.
Very drunk.
And so obviously the police got a little bit more heavy-handed, and most of us did get caught drink driving at some point. You know what I mean? So yeah, we all lost our licences and stuff, and ended up running to work, and yeah, it kept me fit anyway. You know what I mean? It's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah,
It did. It's 5 miles to work. So I was running to work 5 miles and running back. So I was doing like 35 minutes, 5 miles. So I got fairly fit in the end. I got peed off
like indirectly an athlete before you even got in the tarmac race.
not through choice. yeah, not through choice. No.
So like you went down the motocross scene and you just thought right, and then you came to the Isle of Man. So what was your first idea to come to the Isle of Man?
It was motocross. We came over to do the motocross meeting in the week. It was on the weekend, in between practice week and race week. It was like an annual thing, you know.
Yeah. But was that like a big event? Because I'll be honest with you, I've not heard of it. Like, I've got my mate Sugar Tits there, little Hayden, you know, and like at no point have they come thought, oh, we'll go to the Isle of Man to do a motocross event. Yeah. So was it like a big prestige event at that point?
Do you know what? It's that long ago, I can't remember. Do you know what I mean? We're talking 1981. So, you know, I can't even count that far back. You know what I mean? I didn't race motorbikes because I was clever. You know what I'm saying?
I love this. By the way, he's gone a little bit quiet on us because I think he knows what's about to happen here.
Oh, no. I'm not having it. No, I'm driving.
I know you can have what?
No, I can't.
You can have what?
No, I can't.
No, once you've lost your licence, you don't do it.
No.
Do you not?
No.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, no, it's not happening.
Would you like a glass, Pete?
I tell you
No, I'm on Grom.
That is my favourite tipple, to be fair.
That is a Blossom Hill crisp and fruity.
Correct.
Would you like to have a touch of the bottle, sir?
It's cold as well.
It's chilled.
Yeah.
Well, let's wet the whistle. We're gonna have a little dabble. We're gonna have a little dabble. Look at that.
Just a sip.
Just a sip.
Just to loosen the lips.
You know what? I just want to feel this moment because I tell you what.
Like this?
I'm actually. I've heard you talk about this so much. I've been excited about.
I should be on a bonus for Blossom Hill.
That is. Now we're paying guests to be on the show. You've got a bottle of Blossom Hill straight on. But I'll tell you what.
Do you know what's missing? Oh, you haven't got them as well. He has. Walker's Sensations Chili Crisps. Oh. I'm in heaven.
Right, now that we've got... By the way, cheers, lads, to a safe TT.
Bottoms up.
And you can't say that in a certain bar.
No, we don't say that in a gay bar.
30 quid. Three men jammed in the back of a van.
That's it.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Just a tenner each.
I tell you what, I thought Chrissy was quick at maths, son. That was unbelievably on the button, that one. Unbelievably on the button. But I tell you what, I thought, I'm going to get that in. There'll be people screaming going, I've interrupted you. But that was well worth interrupting you for. I'm telling you that for a fact. But
get that in you. What do you think of that? I like that.
Oh, that's all right.
It's palatable, isn't it?
That is palatable. They have some sensation crisps on it. Well,
I'll get fat. I'm only allowed so many.
Absolutely brilliant. But I'll tell you what, I'm really sorry about interrupting you. We're talking about how it wasn't a prestige event. You know, it was a case of you've heard of it and you want to come do it.
Do you know what? The lads I knocked about with were older than me, and I think it was more. We came over, we stayed in a campsite, we did the motocross, we experienced the whole Isle of Man thing. Do you know what I mean? I think we came over. We might have come over the year after with road bikes in the back of the van. I think we did, and did it that way. You know what I mean? And it was just great fun. Just a bunch of lads, you know, out just having great fun. It was mega, you know what I mean? Back in the day, and no mobile phones. You know what I mean? Nobody filming you. Nobody, you know, you could do what you wanted. It was just good crack, you know, and that's the way we did it. It was just. Yeah.
And so you were saying you were knocking around with all the lads at that point. What age? No. But what age were you at this point?
I'm trying to think. I was like, I did motocross from like 16 to 19 or something. Right. So I was, you know, like, I was relying on them for lifts really in the early days because I couldn't drive at that age and stuff. Well, not really. And another story.
Do you have a glass of wine, sir?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, no, a good bunch of lads. A couple of them came over on road bikes just this last year, and we all went out on. I've got a road bike as well and trials bike and stuff. So we went out on the road bikes and had a laugh and and went for a drink in Douglas. You know what I mean? It was good, great to catch up, and I hadn't seen them for donkey's years. You know what I mean? So good to catch up. It was, yeah.
So. And then you did the motocross, and then you went and watched the side of the road. You watched the TZ first fly by, and you thought, I need a bit of that.
That's for me.
So, for back then, Because Piggy, you never got your race licence, did you? Or did you?
No, never, no.
No. So it's like, I tell you what, right? What was your first memory of coming to the TT? Because we've got Chris is coming to the motocross, watching it, thinking, I need a bit of that. What was your first time here?
I was wanted to come, but like I say, I was having my apprenticeship, so my exams always dropped. But we're always listening to motorcycle news, and because there was no other way.
No.
Sort of listening, there was no internet or anything like that. So, but I always wanted to come, and my cousin used to come, and he'd sort of got me interested in it. So as soon as my exams were out of the way, that was it. I was here, and I just it blows you away, doesn't it?
So what I find very interesting now, you've got the mentality of a racer going, I want to do that. Why didn't you want to click that? But you're both having your moment here.
But I didn't want to do the TT, which is a bit odd.
Right.
That's not what. That's odd, isn't it? How I came here, saw that, wanted to do it, but wasn't. I don't know why I didn't want to do it. Or I don't know why that was. It wasn't my goal by any means. You know what I mean? It wasn't my goal. But my absolute ultimate goal was to be British champion. I never ever let that go until I got it. It was like I'd have done anything to get that. You know what I mean? It was like I never stopped until I got it.
Yeah, but that's on the side of a hill, and he just went. Okay, I tell you what. When you hear you read all these like autobiographies, everything like. I always knew I wanted to be champion. On that side of that hill, was it a laugh or? Well, I find that very interesting. I want a bit of that. Was it just a sample?
It was just the tarmac, the noise of the engines. It was the speed. It was. That's just what turned me on more than anything else. Do you know what I mean? It was just like that adrenaline, that bang, that I wanted it real bad. And obviously, I started off as a club rider. Do you know what I mean? I did all Albemarle Barracks, Euston. I used to have the lap record there, and I did Silith. And like when I first started off in 1981, I was a bit rubbish, and then I got a bit better. And in '82, the year after, I broke Neil Mackenzie's lap record. So only by a tenth of a second, but for me that was like, come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just and I won the championship that year, my first full season, and then I won the North East Championship, and then and it just went on, and then I was 350 Scottish champion in 1985 against Donny McLeod, Neil Mackenzie, all them boys were all there, but they didn't do every round, and I just kept going, you know what I mean, and got British Championship, and I was going to retire then because I was skint. I was proper skint.
I was about to ask, what were you doing to fund this?
Man.
At like 16, 17, 18?
Well, when I was 19, I had 2 bank loans running, which took more than half my wages every week just to pay the bank loans. That's how serious I was about it. You know what I mean? Like, I look at these youngsters these days that want it all on the plate, they want it all paid for, they want this, they want that, and I'm like, it's different. Back then was different. If you didn't have the money, you went and borrowed it, and that was it. You know what I mean? You had to. So yeah, that's what I did.
How close was that the failing?
Very. 1985, bearing in mind I didn't retire till 2013 and never missed a season, like 32 seasons.
Shut up, man.
No, never missed a season. Yeah. So, I 85 was the end. I had nothing left. I had no money left. I had nothing. I had a TZ 350. And the year after, and I don't know how this happened either, the year after that, 1986, I had a TZ 125. I had 250... I had a 250 Rotax. I had an RG 500, I think, which nearly broke me, just on oiling up spark plugs alone. And I think we got an FZ 750, a crashed road bike, and made it into a super stocker back then. So yeah, but it was all borrowed money. Like, I was just, and people chipping in and family and stuff. It was.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's go down the family route again. So you've gone from, you've denied your father jumping on getting in the 4 wheels.
Yeah.
And now you're coming home, you're dripping in debt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like that. Were you still living at home during all this?
Back then I was living at home then, yeah. So you're kind of a little bit protected there, aren't you? Oh no, what was I? I can't remember. I did leave home early. I think I was probably kicked out, to be fair. No, I'm joking. But my dad did support me. My dad had a business and stuff, and he did help me the best he could. And he loved me. He loved me going to Cadwell and having like 4 wins and 2 seconds or 6 wins, or we were pretty handy back in the day. And when I said to him, as time went on, I started drifting into British Championships, and I sort of 90 not 90, 88, 89, I did a few more British and then a few more British. And then 1991, I said, right, I'm doing the full British. Start to finish, I'm doing it. And then my dad said, well, I'm out. He said, I'm not getting involved if you're going away all weekend to do one race. So I had to find, me and a mechanic friend, we did the full series and finished second in the British in that first full series. We runner up to Robert Dunlop. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So it was I meant it. Like I would.
That's putting it lightly, to be fair. So.
No, I meant it. So that was it. Like, yeah.
So in comparison, like you were saying, your dad wouldn't go if you only do one race. How many races were you doing a weekend at this point?
Like 6 or something at Cadwell. Yeah, you did loads of, I can't remember what it's called now. Was it Formula 5 Club and all them? You did loads of races, didn't you?
Yeah. They did a lot at Cadwell, didn't it? Formula 5.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn this into almost like a bit of a double interview. So, in this timeline, what year was that?
Well, no, it was. So I started racing in 81, and I stayed at club level far, far too long, to be fair. But I couldn't afford to do what else. I couldn't really. So 81 to 88, I started dabbling in British Championships. 89, I did quite a few rounds, and then 90, and then 91. 1990, I did quite a few rounds. Realised I was all right. Do you know what I mean? Realised I could compete against most of the guys. 91 was my first full season, really, of like hitting it as hard as I could. I knocked some out.
That's good.
And then, but I met up with Frank Raffles. So Frank Raffles saw me, I think it was at Cadwell or somewhere, and I was getting passed down the straight like I was going backwards. Ian McConaughey, ex Grand Prix rider on the Claycross Kawasaki Honda. He was passing me on the straights, but I was passing him on the corners. And Raffles said to me, he said, like more or less, who's done your motor? I said, it's stock. I said, it's standard. It's just as it is, you know what I mean? And I think it wasn't even painted then. Like, it was just plain white out the shop.
How much was that bike?
Oh, I can't remember. 5 or 6 grand or something, maybe.
You know what I mean? And you're talking GP, like you're running it British.
Yeah.
Running it British for 5 grand.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was a lot of money then, mind.
No.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like,
5 grand then.
It was a lot of cash back then. We're talking a long time ago. You know what I mean? And anyway, Frank took me under his wing and he said, "Look," he said, "I'll do your motor for you." And he said, "Run some stickers on it and I'll do your motors for you." And I was like, "Right, brilliant, that'll do." And he just went from there, And I was with Frank a long time after that, Try to think. So I was with Frank from 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97. And then 98, I was, actually, might be, so Frank did me motors all that time, which is brilliant, fantastic, that sort of support, you can't buy that. And we could go down and use his dyno, and we became friends, you know what I mean? It wasn't just a tuning man, you know what I mean? We were, obviously, and I was a bit of a character at the time, and I was a bit of a daft lad, and everybody sort of, you know what it was like, you know what I mean? I was like, there was no phone cameras and following you around. It was like, you just did what you want, you know what I mean? And I did some daft things. I did
come on, like as clean as you can, or unclean as you want, you know what I mean? It's let's get some daft stories.
You get your practice done and all that sort of thing. Then you'd be straight down the bar, you know what I mean? And then, but I was always the one that was like dancing on tables naked and all that carry on. You know what I mean? I was always the one flashing me carry on, and you know what I mean? It's like showing people my chicken's neck and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. Well, you know what I mean? It's like
I've seen it.
Yeah, most people have.
I've heard legendary I've heard legendary stories about that. You know what I mean?
Don't even go
like
there.
Curled up cobras in the bottom of pint glasses.
Don't even go there.
Mate, I'm telling you.
Don't even go there.
I tell you what though. So we're talking about the 90s.
Yeah.
What I want to go to direct back to Piggy here is a bit like, where were you during all this? Were you watching British? Did you see Chris coming through the ranks?
Yeah. Well, I've been spectating and seeing you coming through, and there was some cracking racing in them days.
Yeah.
That your 125 and your 250 classes were
class, weren't they? Like we're talking full grids and some. A lot of people didn't even make qualifying. A lot of people got sent home, didn't they? Donington. I'm trying to think how many were at Donington one year. There was 40 slots on the grid, more than half. There was like 60 odd or 70 odd 125s. There, you know what I mean, and Mallory Park, something like 1.2 second split pole till last qualifier and stuff. And it was tight going back in them days.
You wouldn't pick a winner, would you?
No.
Like
really?
something you think, you'll have like 2 or 3 that you'd think, it's going to be one of them. But in them days,
and you had like ex people coming back from Grand Prix like Robin Appleyard, Steve Patrickson. You know what I mean?
Oh, Steve, I don't know him.
Yeah, Fat Pat.
His best mate.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Fat Pat?
That's Fat Pat. That was his nickname, wasn't it? Fat Pat.
Was he quite quite a sturdy fellow back then?
Well, no, I think he's put a bit of beef on now, maybe. But
No, but why was he... Oh, wait, come on. We're now having the crack here. Come on, why was he called Fat Pat?
I would just suspect I didn't know him as that then.
I think because what a lot of people didn't realise was back in the day, the biggest thing was what weight are you? Like all the 125 riders were like, it was like a travelling show. We all knew each other. We all got on well together. We all went to the pub together. We all had a laugh together. And it was like, but the weight thing was a massive thing. Leon Haslam came on the scene at like 15 at 6.5 stone, and we were all like, so how are we going to get down to 6.5 stone? You know what I mean?
What were you weighing in like the 90s then? Your first year at British, what were you weighing?
Probably, maybe 9.5 stone, something like that.
Okay, with gear on, what's that?
Oh no, well maybe.
No, with like. 10,
I don't know.
Because a lot of people like.
I was a wild card at the British Grand Prix twice, and I got weighed in with all my kit on at 70 kilos. Was it 70? Yeah, so 11 stone, fully suited and booted, like. So
was there a weight limit at British at that point?
That was world though. You see, that was the British Grand Prix.
Was there a weight limit?
Yeah, riding and bike weight limit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I turned up at Donington Park one weekend. I think I was, what weight was I? I don't know. I think I started off at 10 stone 2, and from Thursday to going home, I had one burger the whole weekend, and I got down to 9 stone 8 that weekend. Yeah. So it was a serious job. It was the boys weren't messing about like. And I was coming down the back straight. I was almost hallucinating because I was that hungry and my body was like, I just needed food and you know what I mean? It was that bad. That's how serious and everyone thinks I was a daft lad because I was a daft lad, you know what I mean? But on track, I was proper serious like. And we were tough lads, there was a lot of elbowing, there was a lot of rubbing like, we're not talking playing, like we're talking...
That's class.
Yeah.
That is class. But obviously then there would have been no tyre restraints. Was everyone kind of on the same bike? You know what I mean?
There wasn't much in it. Because we were at Brands Hatch once and we shared the garage with a load of Dutch guys because they could come over and do the British Championship stuff. And we were all there. There was barrels and cylinders and heads laying all over the garage. Didn't matter. They were all tuned by the same people. So they're all going, you do not hide your cylinder. You do not keep secret. No, because we've all got the same tuner. It didn't matter. It's like you had what you had, and that was it. You just went as fast as you could. It was great. Yeah, Meg.
How hands-on were you?
Oh no, I could do it all, but I still liked having a mechanic. I didn't like doing it, but I could do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I still, even right to the very end, I still made a lot of decisions on jetting and setup and what a lot of people nowadays, like the 4-stroke job. The setting up a 2-stroke's a proper science. Do you know what I mean? It's you can change your head volume, your squish, your ignition timing, your jetting, your power jet cut off. You could change your ignition timing in each gear if you have the right ignition and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff in the background that people don't see and maybe appreciate. You know what I mean? And that's what frightens me a little bit about. I know this sounds a bit wrong maybe, but 4-stroke riders jumping onto a 2-stroke, like they wouldn't cover the clutch all the time and never let go of it, because when the C's up they throw you like proper, you know what I mean? It's ragged all time, like, and it hurts a lot, you know what I mean? Like 90% of my injuries have all been through engine seizure. Everything smashed to bits, over 40 broken bones.
40 broken bones.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot, like we're talking 30 odd years, so it's not that bad of an average, really, if you know.
A bone a year, over a bit more than a bone a year. Giddy hand.
Yeah.
But I've got, before we go jump down the technical right, I must ask. So, were you earning enough money with prize money to get to the next round? Was that what was prize money like?
Yeah, well, the thing is, you couldn't work much because I raced for a team at Scarborough for like 5 years or something, so I was going down to Lee Rumney's place. I'd be going down there on... so I'd work maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, go to Scarborough Thursday, load the van and everything, travel down to the track Friday, qualify Saturday, race Sunday, like travel back Monday sort of thing, 'cause 150 mile each way, if you know what I mean, and then go to work, obviously not every week. Sometimes you could work full weeks, but sometimes you just couldn't, you know what I mean? It was, and there was 2 British Championships back then. So you did the British UK Championship, and then there was the BSB, like what it was called Super Cup then. So there was two lots of British Championships going on and stuff like that. It was busy all the time, and then the Northwest 200, and sometimes the TT. I did that a couple of times early on, and Yeah, just.
So what was your trade? What were you doing?
Mechanic, car mechanic. Yeah. I served my time on Scania trucks. So I was a truck mechanic, and then I worked on buses for a long time for the family firm, and then I moved into like car MOTs and lighter vehicles, if you know what I mean, repairs. Worked for garages, and that's what I did when I moved over here. To be fair, I worked in garages.
But what was your? So we've talked about, you went to British and you were doing 2 rounds. So you're doing the Super.
The Super Cup.
Super Cup, thank you very much.
It's what like BSB is now.
Yeah. So what was your first taste of a road circuit? What was your decision to go down that route?
I did Scarborough in 19...
That was your first road race?
I think so. So I entered Scarborough for the early one, and I got knocked off my road bike and I couldn't go. So I went to the next one in July or whatever. So that was my first... But it's not like a road circuit, is it, Scarborough? It's more like a short circuit with trees, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
It's smooth, apart from the big jump and stuff, but it's not, you wouldn't class it as a pure road circuit, really.
I agree.
But then I went to the Northwest in 91. Never seen the place in my life, and it was before all the roundabouts and chicanes. It was fast, and I qualified 3rd fastest front row first time there behind the 2 Dunlops. So that was good, but I had a bit of that race was mixed up with Super Sport 400 back then, like KR1Ss, RGVs, 400s, and then I went over the top of somebody into Juniper chicane. Then when he flipped back over me, we got tangled up and he fell off, and I carried on. So that didn't go down too well, but it knocked me back to 6th. I finished 6th at the Northwest first time there, which I was happy enough with, you know what I mean.
You people would rip your arm off for that opportunity now, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But that's the one that got away from me. Like, I always wanted to win that race, and I think I've been second 6 times by like 0.3 of a second, 0.9 of a second, point this, and and the one I should have won, my chain jumped off going because we changed gearing on the line, and we had the chain the wrong side of a roller, and it jumped the chain off, and it was like, it's just the one that got away, and it still hurts me today that I didn't win it. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. It kills me. Like.
And to be blunt, was it the Dunlops stopping those wins?
No. Yeah, actually some of it was, because I finished second to William, I finished second to Robert, I finished second to Locker, I finished second to Wilcox. Yeah. But we did it, I think it was 2009. I finished second to William rode the KRP bike, they were trick, they were fast, and I thought I had a good bike, but he came past me like he was on a 250. I was like, wow, I can't compete with that. Anyway, finished second to him, and I was absolutely gutted and destroyed. I stood on the podium, champagne, I was like, yeah, right, whatever, gutted like. And the next race, 250 race, me and William had trouble on our bikes, and we started from the back row of the grid. He won it an hour second. So yeah. So exactly the same result, but 2 absolutely upside down. I was like ecstatic with second, like, gutted at one race second. How can you have such a mixed emotion? Yeah. The same result, one's crap and one's fantastic. You know what I mean? It was a really odd day for me. That, like, it made me think a lot about a lot of things, if you know what I mean.
But like you were talking about engine seizures, like covering the clutch, and how 4-stroke riders wouldn't are very dangerous to jump on the 125s now. So
and 250s,
of course. But riding around the Northwest circuit on a 125, that screams seizure. You know what I mean?
It does if your bike's not set right. It's the same old story. If your bike's set correctly, you're fine. You know what I mean? But it's a fine line. It's a very fine line. And I used to set mine like proper close to the edge, like, you know what I mean? Had to. And we used good fuel, and we used, when I moved to the Isle of Man, I bought my own dyno for that reason. Do you know what I mean? So. But
okay, I tell you what, I must ask, because a lot of people love the detail on this show. It's the fact of, like, you're talking close to the edge. Explain that. Are you talking about?
Well, if you set your bike rich, it's safe, but it's not going to be fast.
And rich means it's got more fuel going in.
Yeah. Use bigger jets. You've got more fuel going into it. The piston's washed with cold, wet fuel, lots of oil in it.
Yeah.
Less chance of seizure. Doesn't mean it won't, but it's got much less chance of seizure. But it won't rev. A bike that would normally rev to maybe 13, 14,000 will probably brick wall at 12.5. It'll be like, you know. Yeah. It's not the correct way to set a 2-stroke. You know what I mean? But if you get close to the edge, if you get the exhaust pipe like that colour at the back, you know you're asking
white.
Yeah, you know you're asking for trouble, but it's going to be fast. But for how long? That's the trouble.
Yeah.
But you knew that.
Oh yeah. I got away with it a lot of times. I did. I mean, I used to remember Peter Berwick.
Yeah.
Peter Berwick, he worked on me 250 near the end of the 250 times, and he couldn't believe the jet sizes I ran. Like he used to say, "What have you got in, Palmer? What have you got in?" And I'd tell him, and he'd go, "I don't believe you." I just wouldn't believe the jet sizes I ran. I ran small jets, but the bikes liked it. It was, he just couldn't believe that. He couldn't believe that my bike would stay running and wouldn't seize up. You know what I mean? I did run little jets.
Any regrets doing that? When you're talking about like 90% of your injuries.
Only when I wake up in the morning.
but when you're talking about like what's the saying? You play with matches, you're going to get burned.
Yeah. But there's an old saying, isn't it? Jet down for speed and collarbones.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Because when they reach, it's like having choke on, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it. Yeah,
exactly. That's how it feels when you're too rich.
You've got to keep them.
Yeah. But when you ride a two-stroke properly, and if it's got what they call a detonation counter, so it's like a knock meter, so you're allowed 6.5 dets per kilometre on your det counter, and we I think it was what year would it be? 2008. We won remember when they ran the two-stroke TT at the Blount? So so I won the first 125 race there, and bearing in mind it was something like 9 laps. So 9 laps at 4.25 miles isn't that many debts. I can't remember. I can't work it out because I'm not very clever. But
that classes as a TT win. A lot of people don't realise that.
All the bells and the whistles and the trophies and everything. It was all. Yeah,
it was a TT win.
It was. Yeah. So, but. Bearing in mind, it should have had, say, I don't know, 300 or 400 debts on the clock. I had, what did I have on my clock? It was something like 3,500 debts or something. So I didn't dare let go of the clutch. I was like, literally, I was coming into stadium corner, flat in sixth, sitting up, going down 2 gears, waiting for it to seize. Like, so it's a bit of a mind bender at times. It can mess you up, But anyway, it didn't seize, but it had detonated terrible. It was a right mess. So we had to change pistons between.
Did you get more of it like that?
It's a buzz.
Buzz.
Absolutely.
No, I'm sorry, but you're talking about road racing.
Yeah.
We all get a buzz.
Yeah.
You're racing a bike.
Yeah.
And you've just added.
Yeah. You're cheating death, like.
That is. What's the game of the gun?
Yeah, no, it's Russian roulette. I call it. You put the bullet in, you spin the barrel, and you start pulling the trigger. That's how it was.
The smile on your face is just class.
Yeah, no, that's how it was. It was. Yeah, that's all part of it. Like the two-stroke science was keeping them going, keeping them fast, and staying alive. Yeah.
When they brought in 4 strokes?
Yeah, diesels.
For people that can't hear him, Piggy is buckled right next to me here. I'm telling you that. But I tell you what, Piggy, like, how many 2-strokes have you worked on? Before you got on the 4 strokes?
Not many really, my own.
Really?
But obviously just road bikes. But when Christy rode with Steve Patrickson that year.
That was your first 125, like mechanical.
Sort of thing, yeah.
He was a clever lad as well, wasn't he? Like he knew every trick in the book, every little trick part, and this, that, and the other. He had access to stuff.
Yeah. What was being the word is not so smart now. No, I didn't. No.
The Perry.
Well, he's just retired onto sort of packed in this year.
But so, like, in comparison to your bike, let's talk about Chris's bike. It's 125 2-stroke. Did you ever have a seizure?
Yeah.
Really?
I think he did see it. Not a lot, just once, I think, but he had a few crashes on it and just bits and bobs. But no, I mean, like you said, Steve were good, weren't he?
Oh, yeah. Very.
But when you think about the Aprilia Super Teens and the 125s, the amount of bikes out there, you'd almost deem them as, do I dare say, safe mechanically. In comparison to that.
Yeah, you never. Yeah, I know what you mean. But like, that was the way it had to be.
My God.
That's the way it had to be.
Do you feel like racing's missing that now?
I think it's a different era. It's just a different era. It's moved on. Like you've got all your electronics, you've got your slipper clutches, you've got this, you've got your your auto blips, you've got your it's all different, and not in a bad way. You know what I mean? It's you know what I mean? But it's still not racing 2-strokes. You know what I mean? It's not like it was, if you know what I mean, for me.
I can see it in his eyes, man. I'm looking at him now. No, but the fact is, Racing died before strokes. I can see it in his eyes, man. You know what I mean? Look at him. You can see, like, we've gone from the exaggerated Chris Parr of, like, the roulette gun, you know what I mean? Doing your own bets and everything like that to, well, 4 strokes. It's like... Yeah.
Well, did you enjoy riding that Honda?
Oh, mate. I tell you what, like, when I rode John Chapman's 250 around here, if I knew what I knew now about 2 strokes, I think I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? Because I remember I went down Bray Hill, just treating it as a normal bike.
Yeah.
Never covered the clutch once at all.
See, and the other thing that people didn't realise was everyone thinks they seize when they get hot, but they can cold seize just as easy. So if the motor gets too cool, it will seize again. So you can have a cold seizure, you can have a heat seizure, you can have a detonation seizure, you can have, if you run too much advance, if you run too much compression, if you've got a different size end, like the silencer tube is, it's every single thing is critical on them. You know what I mean?
And even rolling the throttle, because I remember speaking to Bruce Anstey, he says, "Shut the throttle." I went, "What do you mean, shut the throttle?" You know what I'm saying? Like on a 4-stroke, you can cruise the throttle into a turn.
Not like blip the throttle.
You have to. That's another thing. Downshifts for blip.
Because every time you blip it, you're giving it a blast of cold, wet fuel with oil in it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But and what I found interesting, I know I'm fast forwarding a bit, but you're looking after a rider called Joe Yeardsley. Yeah. And you said to me, you wouldn't let him ride.
No, I won't let him ride him. No, he's desperate to get on one, but I won't let him. No, but it's not just the fact that I know what happens on them. The 2 strokes now are obviously they're old. You can't get parts for them anymore. You can't get the quality of parts. You can't get, we used to buy kit pistons that were Teflon coated. You don't get them anymore. Well, you might be able to get them now, but things were just getting short supply, and you couldn't get the bits and you couldn't get the quality parts, and it made them dangerous. And that's the only...
Because you had tape on radiator that you could pull off, didn't you? You used to tape it up for a loop.
You could tape to your top yoke and you could pull it off if it started running too hard.
To watch
Nick Lofthouse was a clever lad. He used to have like a louver. So he had, on the front of his bike, he had a louver with like a choke lever. So he could actually alter the louver on the radiator and stuff like that. Like he was switched on.
He does some races, doesn't he?
Yeah. No, it's his nephew, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, got you. What were you about to say there? Sorry, I just interrupted you.
Yeah, proper watch your temperature gauge, and like you say, you can get cold seizures as well as hot. Everyone thinks it happens when they get hot.
Yeah. But if they run too cool, the seize.
The bloody hand grenades.
Correct.
The bloody hand grenades.
And that's what frightens me about lads jumping on them now, if you know what I mean.
But when you were racing, even in British, those races must have been horrendously unpredictable because of seizure elements. Is that right in saying that?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm making it sound worse than it maybe is. They didn't seize up all the time.
Aye.
But when they did, they caught you out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I've got time for a story, haven't we? So,
of course, it's chasing the racing, son. You've got all the time in the world.
So we were at Snetterton, right? And you know how long the back straight was at Snetterton, you know what I mean? So we're at Snetterton, British Championship round, and bearing in mind we were going straight from there to the northwest, so it was quite a big weekend and all that sort of stuff. And we put a new piston in the morning, and it was the morning warm up, 10-minute warm, but he didn't get long. And it's it's got a new piston in, right? Okay, no problem. And we're talking about Mick Lofthouse. And Mick came past me on the start of the back straight. Well, that was it. It was like red rag to a bull. I forgot all about this brand new piston. It was like out my head. And I was like, tucked in behind him, slipstreaming. Well, I got to the end of the straight at Snetterton, sat up and shut the throttle, and it locked solid. Spat me straight over the handlebars at probably 135 mile an hour, and it smashed me to pieces. It shattered that metacarpal, broke that metacarpal, and dislocated it. Is this the same crash? Yeah, it is. Yeah, got to be careful because I've had a few. But it shattered. It snapped my finger, shattered my finger, and the bone came out. So I was put in the back of an ambulance, taken off to hospital, and that finger, because it was just hanging on skin, it was like across there like that. So it was just hanging on skin, and the bone was sticking out. So I got taken off to a soundproof manipulation room. That sounds good, doesn't it? No one's coming, no.
Anything for 30 quid.
Yeah. So they basically laid me down and said, right, take as much gas and air as you can. Honestly, it was. Said, take as much gas and air as you can and then give us a nod. So I took as much as I could, nodded, and then screamed the place down when they pulled the finger out and put it back where it was. So then they taped the fingers together like a splint, because obviously they're only thin, aren't the fingers, aren't they? So they splinted it together, and then I got a plaster on, all that sort of stuff. That's fine. So anyways, I was feeling a bit sorry for myself, to be honest. It wasn't a very good one. And then Mick Lofthouse gave me a bollocking. He said, if you hadn't had as much to drink last night, you'd have caught that seizure. I was like, I didn't have that much, you know what I mean? Well, no more than usual, anyway. So cut a long story short, that we packed up at Snetterton, back up to Carlisle from Norfolk, long way, you know what I mean? That was Sunday night. Monday, drove up to Scotland, caught the ferry to Ireland, took my plaster off on the ferry, put my hand in the ice bucket to try and get the swelling down, because it was like a boxing glove at this point, like it was massive. Got over there, and then the organisers at the Northwest had heard that I'd had a crash.
Oh, God.
So it was like, well, you have to have a medical, haven't you? So I thought, how am I going to get through a medical with this? Like, it was like that. And obviously it was all blood because my finger had been cut and taped back to the other finger and stuff. It's like, right, how am I going to get away with this? So I filled myself full of painkillers and off I went to the doctor. Doctor looked at me and he went, I can't let you ride with that. He said, that's broken. I said, it's not broken. He said, I can see it's broken. He said, I know it's broken. I'm a doctor. I said, it's not broken. I said, I can prove it. I said, I've got the x-rays back in my van. I can go and get them for you if you want. He went, I don't need to say x-ray, lad. He said, I don't need to see. I said, you've got to let me ride. I said, because, you know, it's like, I needed, like, basically, you know, your bit of start money, bit of prize money and all that carry on. I said, I need to be riding here. He went, oh my God. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He said, tomorrow night's practice, Tuesday night. He said, I'll let you do practice tomorrow night. He said, but you behave yourself. And if anything goes wrong, he said, my neck's on the line. He said, you make sure you behave. Well, I could hardly hang on to anything, you know what I mean? I literally had them 2 fingers and a thumb left to hang on. And I couldn't wear my gloves because my hand was like massive. So I borrowed Mick Lofthouse lent me his gloves. I've still got them, bless him, because that was actually 96. I'm going to pull it out of there. Aren't I?
Oh, no, it's all good, man. You crack on.
So anyway, Mick lent me a set of gloves, loaned me a set of gloves, and we went out. And I qualified 24th on the Tuesday night. I thought, fucking hell, that's scary. That's shit. So anyways, I was proper beating myself up, you know what I mean? But I literally couldn't hold the handlebars or brake, you know, it was terrible. Like, the pain was horrendous. Anyway, Thursday night comes along, qualified 7th, second row, whatever it was. I thought, we're on it here. More painkillers, a few burgers and curried chips and all that carry on. We're on it. So come race day, we're off like the clappers. Like, Mick Lofthouse was gone. He'd got a Honda by this time and he'd won the last 2 British Championship rounds. He was gone. I was second. I was lying second to him. I thought, we're on it here. But anyways, as the race went on, it just got sore. Like, the pain was killing me. Like, anyways, in the end, on the last lap down into Metropole, Dennis McCulloch and I think Gary Dines or somebody, I think it could have been Gary, passed me on the brakes and I couldn't outbrake them. My hand was wrecked. Like, so anyways, I finished 1 second behind second, so it was second, third, fourth, and then we packed up that night, loaded the van up, and then back then they used to get a police escort they used to park the traffic for you and to get you to the boat if you needed to get the boat. So that's what happened. Yeah. So it was like, honestly, it's like Dukes of Hazzard. Like, the police sirens are going and all the cars are parking on the motorway with a big line of vans all heading for the boat.
That's class.
Yeah, it was mega. So we drove right through the night to Scarborough. Got to Scarborough 5:30 in the morning. 2 wins at Scarborough on the Sunday. Back up to Carlisle. But went to a hospital on the Wednesday to get all my hand all pinned back together and pinned. So, and then the pin was one of those ones that they're putting up the middle of the bone into your wrist, and it sticks out like a centimetre, and it all goes manky because the wire's hanging out here. And then 2 weeks later, I went to the hospital. I said, I need this out. I said, I'm going to Brands Hatch this afternoon. I said, I need this pin out. So the doctor goes in, he went, you shouldn't really be taking it out yet. I said, I need it out. It's got to come out. So he went off. So he got a pair of pliers, had a bit of a wiggle, and it wouldn't come out. And he said, give me a minute. He said, I'll just have a look at this x-ray. He said, there's something not right here. So he goes and has a look at the x-ray, comes back. He said, no, it's straight in. I can pull it. I said, and I think I was stood up at the time, and he just gave it a yank and pulled the pin out, and I was like, honestly, you know, when the sweat runs down your back and all that, I was like, anyway, that was it out. Off to Brands, that's where we went, and yeah, carried on.
How do you get on at Brands?
6th.
Shut up, man.
Yeah, in a British, yeah. Yeah, no, I was quite happy with that.
just couldn't get it. You just can't.
Yeah, but do you stay at home and lick your wounds, or do you go to the northwest and Scarborough and earn probably, I don't know, back then it was probably $1,000, and it was, I needed that, you know what I mean, for the next week, or you know, it was, yeah.
That is class.
Yeah.
What age were you?
What year? It was 96, so I was born in 62. What does that make me?
I have no idea. You
Neither
did the
am I,
maths,
I'm not
son. You
clever
did the maths. No, but like...
Because what years did you win? British.
I won the British in 98. So this was 2 years before the British. Yeah.
So I remember you winning that. I can remember you winning British.
Yeah. Sure. But that was me. That was the end goal.
So like 25, like, hold on. There'll be people screaming
62.
This. Go on, someone work this out.
72, 82, 92, 34 or something. 34.
34.
Yeah, I was 36 when I won the British.
That's mint. Can you do that? Can people do that now? I think
Wilcox was 36 when he won it, didn't he? What was he? Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's just mega.
Yeah. But I was a late starter in life, you know what I mean? I was a bit immature, you know what I mean? I was a bit immature. So I was like, I needed to grow up a lot, you know what I mean? I was a bit of a...
So 36, so a 36-year-old, you know, you can imagine what people are like now. You're going to have married, you're going to be kids, you're going to have the house and everything like that. And you're still going to the Northwest, getting pins removed out your hand and everything. Were you married at that point?
Yeah, I think. First time round.
The first lap of the...
Yeah, first lap, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of them, isn't it?
That is mint. No, because, you've got... How many kids have you got?
I've got 2 in the UK.
Yeah.
Like 30 something and 20 something, you know what I mean? So
I thought you about kids there.
No.
I'm just like, wait. All over the world, there you go.
And then I've got 2 kids over here. So yeah, Holly's 17 coming up 18 and Freddie's 10 coming up 11.
Bloody hell. So you know, you had a family and kids at this point.
Oh, yeah. Well, my kids were growing up, like, while I was still racing all the time, you know what I mean? Yeah. But
that was literally your profession at that point. What was it?
I was still working. I've never ever been full time. Do you know what I mean? Proper, but I kind of had to work part time to do it all, if you know what I mean. But the money, to be fair, the money in the British wasn't bad. It was like £1,000 a win or 800 quid a win. So if you were at the sharp end every week, you did all right. You could, you know what I mean. It was the same as having a job, if you know what I mean.
So it's like, if you focused solely on short circuits, would you have been British champion earlier?
I should have come out of club meetings earlier. I should have started in the British Championships earlier. I should have, but I couldn't afford to. No. It's as simple as that, you know what I mean? That was a do you do, that was, you know what I mean?
No, but I mean in referring to roads. You know how, like, you know, it's an argument that we can discuss. Actually, we could discuss it right now. Why the hell not? But it's a case of, does road racing slow you down for shorts?
Yeah.
So that's my question. So why was it literally just for financial gain for you doing roads if you were aiming to be British champion?
Have you ever noticed that the guys that do short circuits do well on the roads?
Oh yeah,
because they're short circuit sharp, aren't they?
100%.
Right. So, and Michael Dunlop's the odd one out, basically, because he
doesn't really do, but he does the odd wild card.
He does. But a lot of the guys at the front are short circuit lads, aren't they? So at the time I was pointy end, you know, I was up front at short circuits. So when I did the roads, I could hold back. I could still get good results, but not give it. I always had a bit in reserve.
But did that hindrance your speed on the short circuits? If you had, it's like
I didn't do them often enough. I didn't do TT all the time. I didn't do TT until I came over and did I did the Northwest the first time in 91, didn't I? So, but I did the TT in what was it? Something like 89, 90, and then I didn't come back till 94. But I was just playing at the job. I couldn't learn it. You know yourself how hard it is to learn around here, and I didn't. There was no onboards back then. There was no DVDs. There was no, you know, you just turned up in your van, did a lap, and then went out and did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were getting out with colours at 2:00 in the morning. You know what I mean? and doing morning practice. You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
there were 2 videos, weren't there? Mick Grant's, was it?
Victory,
and then Joey Dunlop V for Victory. Yeah. That was it. 2 videos. That's it. That's all there were. Yeah.
So I never watched them either.
No.
So your first, you know, so the first time you came, was it actually kind of like, I've been there, I've done it. You weren't really in love, you know. It's like
I couldn't learn it fast enough, and that made me really, really frustrated, because I found there was people people beating me and out-qualifying me that I thought I was not better than, but I was faster than them. You know what I mean? So I thought, right, I need to leave that alone. You know what I mean? And so that was 90. So 90, it could have been 1991 or 89, 90, and then 94. But Mick was killed in 96. And that was me finished with the TT. I thought that's it. That's me. I'll not be doing that. You know what I mean? Mick was one of my best mates in racing, and he's a great lad, and he was a perfectionist, and I learned a lot from him. I really did. But then when I won the British in 98, I ran the number 1 plate in the UK in 99. Bit of a disaster year. Things went wrong, seized up all the time. My mechanic that I won the championship with went off to Australia. And it just all went a bit pear-shaped. And I lost my mojo a little bit. I lost me... Because I'd achieved my goal. Like, when you want to do something and it's your life's ambition and you get it, what happens then? Where do you go? Like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost like it's like the switch is off, you know what I mean? It's like I've done it. So I and my ex-missus said, like, if you don't pack in, we're getting divorced, sort of thing. So then it was the year after I was anyway, so it didn't matter.
There we are.
Yeah. So
tick. Move on.
Well, it's one of them. I was a bad fella. I wasn't easy to live with. I wasn't like, I was hardly ever at home, and I was a bad lad, and I was always like, it's one of them, wasn't it? So then what happened then? So 99, I was in the paddock at Scarborough, and George Peach, that runs the Southern 100, he used to come to me every year and say, Chris, will you come and do the Southern? And didn't know anything about the Southern. I didn't know much about it, and a lot of people said, look, it's a road circuit, it could be a bit dangerous, this, that and the other, and I didn't want to put myself at risk because of the British and this, that, and anyway, because I had a real bad year in 99, and he more or less turned round to walk away because he thought I was going to say no. I said, tell you what, George, I said, give us a couple of quid, put us up somewhere, B&B or somewhere. I said, I'll come and do it. And he went, oh, all right, okay. All right, okay. So that's how it happened. So 99, I went to the Southern 100 as a newcomer, got on the podium, and I how do I put this without being... I noticed he had a very pretty daughter.
By the way, let me paint the scene. Gorgeous blonde.
Well, yeah. And, yeah. So anyway, but anyway, that was by the by. And that's... what did I do? Was that the first... I can't remember how it all panned out now. Anyway, cut a long story short.
I can imagine.
Yeah. No. It was all above board. Everything was all nicey. And I went off the island, and 2 weeks later, George had been invited down with the committee to Aberdare Park. I was riding at Aberdare Park. I think I'm getting it in the right order. And George couldn't go. So Rach, my now missus, she went down in his place to Aberdare Park,
right?
And we struck up a friendship, and then I came back home to the UK, and a few phone calls later, I came over to the Isle of Man 8 weeks on the trot, and the rest, as they say, is history. So we met really properly in the July. I did Scarborough in the September, then moved over. So we met in the July. I moved over to the Isle of Man in September, moved in with the in-laws. The in-laws didn't even know I was coming.
Shut up, man.
No, honestly, that's how it happened. Sue, my mother-in-law now, she said, oh, Palmy, where are you going to stay when you come over? I said, I'm moving in with you, Sue. She went, oh, yeah. Didn't have a clue. Rachel hadn't told them, like. So it's quite funny, really. But it all worked out well. So, yeah, so we met in the July. I moved over September. We got engaged in November, and I hadn't even got a divorce from the first wife at this point.
Never.
So honestly, it was like bang, bang, bang. So yeah, I know.
Hold on. Was Rachel aware that you were still married at this point?
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah.
That's an understanding.
Yeah. I had lied about my age though.
Shut up, man.
Yeah. So I was 38. I told her I was 32, and I was 38, and she was 20. So it was like, yeah. So I was like, yeah, no. But I think she knew really.
Hold on, she's signing you on for the race.
Yeah.
Hold on, Chris, we've got a bit of a problem here.
Yeah.
What's you're a little bit the VAT here.
Plus VAT.
How do we forget the VAT?
32 plus VAT. Yeah. But that's another thing. All us boys used to lie about our age all the time. All the 125 boys, like I was 24 for years. I was 28 for years. I was, you know what I mean? It was like you never ever owned up to your real age. You know what I mean? And I don't know why. I think it was to do with sponsors and stuff. You know?
But that's an interesting thing. Like I want to talk about that. So in the early days, you know, you've come from motocross, you've stepped up, and you thought, right, I want to aim to get into British and everything. How did you go about sponsors? How do you, like, because now, you know, with social media and a bit, you can imagine every year everyone gets a little bucket out and starts shaking and going, does anyone want to come on board? But that's how it's done now.
Yeah.
How did you go about trying to get support?
Well, I bought all my own bikes right up until 93, I think. So I did like, what's that, 10, 12 years of buying all my own bikes and own kit and everything before I actually got somebody who supplied me a bike. So yeah, it was tough old days, like.
Was literally the end goal for you just being champion?
Yeah.
No matter the cost?
Nothing else mattered. Like, I didn't want to be European champion. I didn't want to be world champion. I wanted to be British champion. And that's all that mattered to me. That's the only ththing. I used to tell people, I'm going to be British champion. They always say, what a big-headed little get he is. You know what I mean? I'm going to be British. I'm telling you now, I'm going to be British champion. And I was runner-up twice, though, mind. I should have put that in. I was runner-up in 91. I was runner-up in 93. So, and then obviously won it in 98. So I was close a couple of times before that, if you know what I mean.
So, like, with your hand, was that your biggest career injury?
Well, to be honest with you, the original injury was 92. So I came up Clay Hill under the bridge, and you know you flick right into Druids. It seized and threw me. So I broke my foot.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I broke my foot on impact. So I was squealing about my foot that hard. When I went off into the bale, and bearing in mind, back then there wasn't the runoff you've got now. There was all just bales on the side of the track laid on the sides on top of each other. And I went off into the bales and I was like, put my hand up like that. And all I saw was my hand just come straight back to here. Just snapped my wrist straight through. Like, so it wasn't good. I was squealing. I was screaming for gas and air that day and all. Yeah.
So I'm just in disbelief at this point.
No, that's how it happened. Like, and I went obviously. Well, you can see my hands like flipping heck. It's like you know what I mean. It's not right, is it?
I was about to say because you're like we bumped into Aidan Robinson, who's over here looking after Craig Neve, and I could just see it straight away because you obviously meant
fix this.
Yeah, fix that. But you've obviously worked with Aidan before.
Yeah. But so that was my wrist snapped at the start of the season. That was like March. And I kept riding all the way through that season. Finished 5th in the British that year with a broken wrist. But I couldn't blip the throttle, which was dangerous, obviously. So I was having to... and I couldn't even shut the throttle sometimes. So I was having to like just let go of the throttle to let it snap shut. So it really spoiled my season, if you know what I mean. It was like and I had to set the bike rich for obvious reasons because I couldn't blip on downshifts and I couldn't. But yeah, 5th in the British at the time was good considering the state I was in. But the doctors wanted to fuse it, so I went to the hospital. They looked at it, went, "Oh, it's wrecked, mate. You need to fuse it." And I said, "Well, I can't fuse it." I said, I'm going to be British champion. You know what I mean? And I says, "You can't fuse my wrist." I said, "That's my throttle and brake hand." I says, "You can't do it." He said, it's what he said to me. He said, "If you don't get it fused, you'll be back knocking my door down to get it fused. You will not be able to stand the pain." I went, "Right, okay." He said, "Do you want a second opinion?" I said, "Yeah, I do." So I got this doctor up from London, did a second opinion. He took a look at it. He went, "Yeah, it needs fused." I couldn't believe it. Like, so I literally walked out of the hospital, sat in my car, and I just cried like a baby. Like, I just cried because I thought my career was over. It meant that much to me. You know what I mean? It was awful. It was a terrible time. So I just, from that moment on, I just did anything I could to get my wrist work.
What would a life been for Chris Palmer if you didn't achieve that British title?
It would have. Something would have been missing, basically. Something would have been missing, like, for sure. Like, you get lads. I've retired 10 years ago, whatever now, and I walked away gladly. I just walked out the room, switched the light off, and kept walking. It was fine. I did 32.5 non-stop road race seasons on top of my motocross. I did enough. You know what I mean? I'd done enough in my time.
But what would it be like for a racer who didn't do enough?
Well, you see them all the time, don't you?
Yeah, there'll be loads, aren't there? Yeah. Just like not everyone can be like champion, can they? For different reasons, not because they've got the ability. Yeah. It can just be like running a two-stroke financially. Well, you were just chucking pistons and stuff all the time, crank rebuild. Oh, it was
everything. Yeah, everything.
In between a meeting, you'd be putting new pistons in.
Yeah.
And then they didn't run gaskets as such, did they? But you were still like...
Yeah.
It was crazy.
But I'm just trying to think, like the mental strength that you've got to actually go through injury, career engine, like you've got, right, you're going to have to get your wrists fused together, and you're still sitting in the car going, I'm not having this.
No.
I'm not having this. But I'm just trying to get a grasp of how dark of a place you could have gone.
It's not just then. I've been in a dark place a few times, I'll tell you now. I could tell, there's lots of stuff gone on. When you've had 40 broken bones, I can hardly walk in the morning. I get out of bed in the morning and I'm like, the first thing I reach for is a cup of tea and a painkiller. It's not great. And when you retire, when you're still racing, it's worth it. It doesn't matter. When you stop, when you retire, and you're in that much pain and it hurts like hell, it's not worth it. Do you get what I mean?
So there is regret there.
I don't regret it because I achieved the goal I wanted.
Yeah.
If you'd not achieved it, maybe
then
it'd hurt a bit more,
then
wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's like not winning the Northwest. That still sticks in my side now. I'm like, yeah. No.
It's not like you with eye injury, and when you did your ankle, you were like at Donington. You were borderline if you should have been riding really after you'd done your ankle, shouldn't you?
Yeah, but
you were like, no, but it's only the same. You're saying to Chris, what do you regret it? You're like, why did you do it? But you're doing it, and a lot of racers still do now, don't they? They're all like,
I know, but it's mad. It's because it's the other side of the unknown. Because at the end of the day, we're sitting here with Chris Palmer, British champion. He's ticked the box. He wakes up, and I feel like you're not even in the room here, so anymore. We're just going to talk about you. But it's waking up every morning, chewing on painkillers.
Yeah. But some of the biggest achievements came after that. The TT wins, 34 Boulogne wins, 97 Scarborough wins, TT wins, TT lap records that still stand. You know what I mean?
Last one to win 125s.
Yeah. So it's like lap record still stands at Scarborough from 1997. Still stands.
And your biggest achievement, you're saying, is still the British. I'm sorry, but I'm back. Look, I'm sorry. I'm on one side of this fence. I'm a TT rider, and all I want to do is win a TT. But it's like it's mad because it's like thereafter. It's like, well, it's almost like washed off. It's like, I
didn't start. I didn't come back to the TT. So I moved to the Isle of Man 2000. 2001 was foot and mouth year, so there wasn't one. So So I'd entered, but I couldn't ride it. So 2002. So it gave me another year. So I met up with Nick Jeffries on the ferry, and Nick said, Palmer, you need to be doing the TT. I said, Nick, I can't do it, man. I said, I can't learn it. I said, it drives me mad. I said, I get frustrated. I crashed twice in, I can't remember what year it was now, 90, could have been 91, so it must have been 1991. So I crashed twice. I lost the front with a new front tyre on at Braddon Bridge and went into Church Wall. And but the second one was a good one. The second one was in the race. I got to Ramsey, and I thought, thank God for, what it's like, Ginger to Ramsey. Absolutely knocks the shit out of you. So I got up onto the mountain. I thought, thank God for that. You know what I mean? I'm through the bumpy bit. I went up into Guthrie's. I knew you go uphill after Guthrie's into a double apex left.
Yeah.
I tipped into the first apex and ran off the edge of the road and cartwheeled. That woke me up. Yeah, that woke me up.
And I bet there wasn't a silent booth for nobles at that point.
No.
I know. Well, I didn't actually go to hospital because I think I fractured a vertebrae or something. And I tried to ride. I jumped back on the bike, tried to ride the bike.
Just went to Reflections.
Yeah.
In colours.
Yeah. But it had buckled all the back wheel because it had gone off into the grass and there was a lump of tarmac in there. That's what had spat me over the handlebars. And So that was like, I don't need this. You know what I mean? And then I rode for Steve Manton on the Yamaha, and he said, well, if you don't ride at the TT this year, we'll have somebody else on the bike. Well, you know what riders are like. You don't want someone else riding your bike, do you? So I came over, and it blew a crank in the race. So it didn't matter. And then when I came back to it, I came back with a different attitude after speaking to Nick. Nick says, "You want to do in the TT, man?" He says, "You can earn a few quid, you know. You'll be all right. You'll be up there." And I was like, so I entered on I entered on a borrowed 125. Kev Stevens, that used to mechanic for the med team years ago, he loaned me one of his 125s, and good little bike, to be fair. And I think I was lying 6th in the race, and young James Crumpton came past me on the brakes on the start of the last lap into Quarterbridge, and I saw his pit board P2. And I thought, well, I'm P6, he's P2. I need to be tagging on the back of him here. You know what I mean? And that was me way of doing it. Anyway, I tagged on the back of him, and I thought I could pass him here, and he's P2. And then I thought, don't be stupid, don't pass him, get back in behind him. And then we came into Alpine, and he went through Alpine flat, and I was like, ooh, that's how to do that. Whoa. I've learned. And then I caught him back up again, and then it was like I could have passed him in other places and this, that, and the other. And then I thought, do not overtake him. Don't, you know what I mean? Learn from him. It's hard when you're a rider, though, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you want to pass him, don't you?
Yeah.
But I thought, if I pass him, I'm blind. I can't see what he's doing. I can't learn. So I tagged him for the whole race, pulled me through to 4th. But we both broke the lap record. I was like, I've got this. I know how to do this now. I came back into my mechanic, Sean Oates, at the time. I said, Sean,
brace yourself.
We're going to win next year. And he went, well, he used to call me Carlton Palmer. He's a golfer, I think, wasn't he? And he went, whoa. He went, whoa, Carlton, you can't talk like that. He says, you can't be talking about that. You've got Locker, Dunlop, you've got this, you've got that. You can't be talking about winning like, I said, I've got this. I said, don't worry about it. I said, we're doing it. I said, I know what to do now. I've got this.
Was that a similar spark? Did the spark get reignited from like, I'm going to win British?
Yeah.
I'm going to be British champion.
Yeah, I'm going to be TT winner. That was it. I knew I was going to do it. And the next year, but you've got to wait a year, haven't you? You know how long a year is between TTs. It's a killer. So anyway, next year, I think we qualified fastest, won the race, lap record, bang, bang, bang. 110.41 on a 125.
Never.
Before they made it faster, before they made Windy Corner, and that was it, Brandish, whatever.
Yeah,
before they made it faster, 110. And then the year after that, we came back again with Nick Woodman. That was Nick Woodman. I did it with Nick Woodman on his old bike, and then we came back the year after, and again fastest, won it, lap record again. You know what I mean? And that's the lap record that stands today, because that was the last ever 125 race.
And top end on him wasn't
135, 134.
130, yeah.
Yeah, so to average over 110.
Yeah.
You're pulling his wire like. Yeah. She's having.
But you were the last one to win the 125.
Yeah.
But then you've won Manx Grand Prix since then. Is that right?
Classics and stuff. But then we won when the Classic 2013 was my last year racing, and we did the 350 race in the morning and the Formula 2 race in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And won them both. So that was good. But in 2006, they had a separate class for the 600s in the TT in the senior, and I won that. And then 2008 was the 2-stroke TT, and we won that as well. So so a much and varied life, Dominic.
A much and varied life, but it's incredible how you've gone from, you've won the British.
Yeah.
The got switched off for you, in your own words. You thought, right, I've lost a bit of a spark here, and then you've come over to the Isle of Man, you've done a lot more road racing, you've won TTs, you've set lap records. What was the point of retirement for you then? What actually triggered that thought process?
Do you know what? It's, I was 51 in 2013, and we turned up at the pre-TT Classic, and I was riding 4 different bikes for 3 different teams, and we won every single race. So I hadn't lost it. I hadn't lost my edge. I hadn't lost my speed. I was up there, you know what I mean? And that's all that mattered. And I could have carried on with the classic bikes, and I could have carried on with the 2-strokes, but the 2-strokes were phased. They were getting phased out. They were getting thrown in with 400s. They were getting thrown in with different classes. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a genuine, proper race anymore. No. And I thought, what do I do? That's what it was. I bought one of Ryan Farquhar Super Twins for 13, and I didn't get on with it. I didn't get on with the bike. That's
a proper diesel. You've gone from a 125 to a proper diesel.
And also a Grand Prix 250, because we won the 250 races at the TT in 03-04 as well. So I won the 125 and both 125 races. But the 250 races, it was a class within a class, so it was in with the 600s. and we won it. And I think we didn't get a trophy, but we got prize money and a rostrum. And the next year, 2004, it didn't even get a rostrum. You didn't get nothing. You just, yes, you were classed as a class winner, but you didn't. There was no podium. There was no trophy. There was no nothing. And I thought, you know what? You know,
it's not what I'm chasing here.
And it's not just about you, it's about your sponsors. They were putting a lot of money into it and a lot of time and effort. And you know, there's no box to stand on, there's no photographs, there's no this, and it's like, you know. So, but yeah, I didn't get on with the twin at all.
No.
I finished 8th at the CT on it in 13, which isn't shoddy for somebody that doesn't like the bike, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Has it been, like you say, was it easy to walk away from it after that?
Do you know the hardest part about when you've done it for that long, 30 odd years? It's like, this is very, what's the word I'm looking for here? It sounds very, I don't know. It's like when you've been Dominic Herbertson, the road racer, Chris Palmer, the road racer.
Piggy the legend. He's correct. But you'll never let that go, you see. No. That's the other side.
But if you walk away from that, what are you? Who are you? And that's the biggest fear I had inside me. It's like, what am I going to be if I'm not Chris Palmer, the road racer? Where am I going to be? What am I going to be? What's, like, will people still remember you? Is you know?
Do you think it helped, you know, going straight into commentary and radio side of things? Was that good for you?
That definitely did help me, but it didn't bother me as much as I thought, because how do I say this? I'd made my decision to walk away, and I knew I had to walk away. My wrist was falling apart. My body was hurting like hell. I was 51 years old. The surgeon that was looking after me at the time, a good friend of mine, said, your body cannot take any more big impacts. And I was like, yeah, but. He went, no. He said, there is no but. He said, I'm telling you now, like, you've got to stop this big impacts. Like, and I was like, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. And I was actually in the George pub and in Castletown, and I think I was at Southern 100 or something, and there was a couple of Irish guys in, and I was telling one of I was in the fire brigade over here, wasn't I, for like 14 years, and I was telling one of the guys, like, I'd made my decision, I was going to stop, and I was going to pack in at the end of the year, and I was a little bit frightened. I'd had a real good run, like I was winning lots of stuff. I thought, there's a big bang coming here. And I thought, I don't want that. You know what I mean? And my missus was, I don't know, 6-7 months pregnant with my little fella. And, and you know, I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was, people were getting killed all around me and stuff. And I was like, I don't need this right now. You know what I mean? I need to, do you get what I mean? Yeah. I almost felt like something bad was coming and it was time to get out. And that's basically what I did. But getting back to it, the Irish guy said to me, if you feel that strongly that something bad's going to happen and you feel that it's coming, why don't you stop right now? Why don't you just walk out of it and stop right now? I said, I can't. I said, I need to finish the season, because we were coming up to the first classic TT, and that's when all the TT superstars, the McGuinness, all the top doers were going to do it. I said, I need to beat them. I said, I can't walk away now when I've got them races to win. And that's exactly what we did. I literally won the 2 races that I wanted to win. And the 500, I was up to second, lying second, but a lap to go, and it broke. So I knew what I had to do before I finished. And then we packed up there, went to Scarborough, 2 race wins at Scarborough, so we won the last ever race I ever did. And then I just switched the light off and walked away.
Yeah, because you won loads at Scarborough, didn't you?
97.
97. Hold on. Is it you then Locker? No.
I think Locker and Farquhar are above me, but they actually raced more bikes than me and did it for longer. They were there. Locker was there in the early 80s, won 83 or something like that, or whatever. But
it makes my 7 wins look shit, doesn't he? There.
Not at all. But it's. You can probably tell how passionate I was about everything. You know what I mean? It was like every single thing mattered to me. And don't get me wrong, I was a daft lad. I always, my clothes were off more than they were on, and I was drunk. And, you know what I mean? This, that, and the other. I was a daft lad, and I used to play at the crowd, and that was just my character. You know what I mean? But come race day, I was serious.
If you were born now into this era,
go on.
It just wouldn't have been the same, would it?
No. It's too sterile for me. You know what I mean? Now, you know, he's they don't even go to the bar anymore, do they?
No.
They're cracking orange juice open and, you know what I mean? You know, no, I was, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, I was probably too wild. I was a wild child, and I was out of control at times. I was, yeah.
But it breeds the character, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. But and to be fair, I joke about this, but I never expected to be still here. I'll be honest with you. I always just thought it was just going to be like, bang, I'll be gone. You know what I mean? And I almost feel cheated that I'm still here. You know what I mean?
That's no. I tell you what, we laugh and brush that off, but you do, don't you? You just think, you're going to go out in a blaze of glory.
I cashed all my pensions in thinking I wasn't going to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. But I'm still here. Now I'm going to be in pain and skint.
But you're still very much involved in the game, and I think this is a perfect opportunity. Like Piggy was rightly saying, you know, what's the best way of putting it? You diluted yourself out in the way of going like commentary, still working. But we must talk about your management, because you are managing Joe Yeardsley, aren't you? In a roundabout way. Well, you explain it. Yeah.
Sort of. I'm not his manager. I'm not, but I am his mentor, and I am trying to keep him safe, and I'm trying to guide him down a difficult path. You know what it's like, you know, especially in this day and age. There's a lot of mistakes can be made, and I'm just trying to use my experience to help him. Do you know what I mean? I'm very lucky. He's a dream to work with. He's so good media-wise. Do you know what I mean? He's a media dream, really. He's a good kid, but he's so fast. You know, he's just such a natural talent. Like it makes my job so easy. You know what I mean? It's like he's just fast. Do you know what I mean? And that's good. You know what I mean?
Was that your reasoning for working with him?
No. We were out on the trials bikes, and we were up Laxey Mines, and he was like second in the British Championship in trials when he was a kid. He's a mega trials rider, and enduro and motocross. A proper pure natural. Makes me sick sometimes. but you know what I mean? You know what I mean? When
we all like people like that.
No. Yeah. But anyway, I don't know whether he asked me. That's where he came to me and he said, "Chris," he said, "I'm going to buy a 600 Steely, start road racing up at Derby and stuff." I was like, "All right, okay." He said, "Would you mind casting an eye over the bike, like just in case it's wrong?" You know, I went, "Yeah, okay." So he brought it to the garage, and my boss is Dave Clark. Clark, he was Locker's mechanic for 12 years,
right?
And then he was with me for the last 3 seasons that I raced.
Yeah.
So between us, we cast an eye over it and went, the suspension's miles off, you know what I mean? So next thing I'm on the phone to Max, and I'm ordering springs, and I'm ordering this, and so next thing we built the bike around him, and off he went. Bloody hell, next thing you know, he's like lap recording and almost on a lap record. I'm like, and he got his national licence in his first season, you know what I mean? He battered it like he
went at it.
Absolutely, he wanted it big time. And I admired that about him, you know what I mean? It was like he's really, really dug in and went for it. So the next year, we set him a goal of winning the championship at Anglesey on the pre-11s, I think they call that, an old R6. So he bought an R6 for $5,000, and that's the one he won the Manx on last year. You know what I mean? So we're not, you know what I mean? It was a 13-year-old bike that he won the Manx on and lap recorded. So we're not, and as with a newcomer's vest on and lap record, you know what I mean? So we're not talking about
it's good going.
It's good going, isn't it?
It's very good going.
He's come from stock even before that.
His dad was a Manx Grand Prix winner. Yeah, in 1985. Yeah, he won the senior. So yeah, Buddy Yeardsley. So a lot of people, you know him over here. Know him everywhere. You know what I mean? But so basically, we took him from being a club rider at Derby to a club championship winner to a Manx Grand Prix winner and lap record holder. To this year, here we are, TT. So that's all he's done on tarmac. It's not a lot, is it? You know.
No, that's not a lot at all.
He's had 2 wins at Scarborough this year, I think, already. You know, he's won on the Mistral Kawasaki 750. Oh well, we took him to the pre-TT last year, and he beat Jamie Coward and broke the lap record. So at the Ballown, well, I mean that's.
Jamie Coward we're talking about here. You know who got 4th places in the TT the same year. You know what I mean? We've got, what we're dealing with here is, I think, proper. You know what I mean? I think it is. So, like, how all your knowledge, all your desires, all your wants, the wild child in you, you know, everything that you've been, is that easy to pass on? Do I dare say a stranger? You know, at the end of the day, he's turned up. Can he give us a hand? You've become friends, but how easy is that to pass that knowledge over?
he does soak it up well. It's like a sponge, you know what I mean? Whatever I tell him, he listens to and he acts on it, which I like that about him. A lot of young, well, I say young, he's 27, he looks 19, but he's 27, so he's got an old head on his shoulders, really. But the fact he listens to me, I like that. Do you know what I mean? And he acts on it, and you're not wasting your breath, and you're not wasting you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And Clarky's the same. Clarky's been around the racing job a long time. You know what I mean? He used to work for Taz Suzuki and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, between us, we can build good bikes, we can do good suspension, and we can get him on the right track, you know what I mean? So we turned up with that R6 at the Manx Grand Prix last year, and the only single thing he altered the whole time of that Manx was one click on the steering damper. That was it. And he went out and broke that lap record. Do you know what I mean? With an orange jacket on. Do you know what I mean?
That there is no disputing the lad's talent. No. There is far any dispute. Like you can't question it. You really can't. But I must ask, knowing your mindset, you're willing to book a one-way ticket to Valhalla. I'm off. You know what I mean? You were there.
Yeah.
You're looking. You're chasing. You got the bike, the screen in. You know, I'm not going to warm this bike up. I'm going to go for it. Yeah. You're looking at someone. That must be difficult.
What, him, you mean?
No, for you. I'm talking about you actually hand that over. It's like, go on, actually, go on.
It's not difficult. It's not difficult. I'm glad to hand it over because my days are done. I've done everything I want to do. Absolutely everything, apart from win the Northwest. That's another
you never mentioned that.
No,
you never mentioned that. 30 quid you could win one.
Yeah. I'd pay 30 quid to have a win. No, but... I gladly hand it over because I have stopped. It's like I said, it's over 10 years since I retired. So I've got, I didn't. My knowledge, as far as I'm concerned, my knowledge is his knowledge now. Yeah. And if I can keep him safe and I can keep him fast and I can help him, you know what I mean.
But can you teach him to bite the screen like you did?
He does now. It's like we. At the Manx last year, he was obviously rides the pattern free and locker, great bikes, and he broke that record from a standing start on the pattern in the Manx, and then it snapped a crank as they do on the second lap, put him out. Now that was his first bite of the cherry gone. So I was talking to him. I was working on the radio at the time, so I was working for Manx Radio, trying to help him as well.
Screaming like that.
Yeah. Running around like headless chicken. I'll just be a minute, and I'm down there. So everything all right? Yeah.
While he's mic'd up, going, dude, fucking sit him, fucking, you've got him. They're all tarts, man. Sit him.
It could easily be done. So I said to him,
Kinley said, fucking.
No, Chris looks after me. Kinley's is a dream. But so he said to me. He said, I said, are you all right? Is everything all right? I said, you know what I mean? Are you ready? You know what I mean? He went, I'm not here to make up the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, right, okay. I said, I'll tell you what then. I says, give us a win. Give us a lap record. And I said, give us a 122 mile an hour lap. And he did all three.
Was he?
You can't knock that, can you?
No.
No, you cannot. No way. But I know I feel like I'm going down this route. It's just this the memory lane side of it. You're a young man with a young family. He's a young man.
He's got a baby, 10 months.
He's got a baby. So I must ask, did having kids yourself slow you down?
Not one bit.
Right?
Not one bit. 2 separate lives. Kept it separate. Had my home life, had my race life. That was it. No, nothing got in the way. Nothing. No, it was never going to get in the way. Nothing.
Yeah.
No. I know that sounds
no. It's
harsh,
no, but it's the thing is, from people outside looking in, you know, that do I dare say boring normal people that don't like motorcycles, that's you'd ring child services. Let's face it. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, hold on, you're not putting. But from me, a pig's point of view, it's like you can.
Yeah.
You can
see
how
do you feel? Well, I mean,
I can't even look after myself. Never mind. I was human being, you know what I mean?
I was similar. You know.
But I don't like. I tell you what, I find interesting about it's I'm very much a person, one job at a time.
Yeah.
I think if some lady that accepts me as a suitable mate and lets me line them, I'm really making this romantic, aren't I? No, but it's like I don't know how I'd react if I had kids with racing.
Yeah,
But then Christian Inn had a kid, gone faster.
Yeah.
James Hillier had a kid, went faster.
Yeah.
John McGuinness had a kid, went
Yeah.
faster. It's like a crash
Yeah,
at the
something like
TT
it,
now.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Jamie Coward, gone faster. 2 kids. You know, it's
Well, you've answered your own question. Doesn't slow you down.
no.
Simple. Because the job in hand is the job in hand. And you know, especially doing TT, your concentration does not lapse 1 split second. Like, you know that. And when you're on the edge and when you're on the limit, that's when you're the most alive. And that's a fact. You're never more alive than when you're on the edge on them bikes. And that's what, do you know what I mean, for me?
I can see it in your eye.
Oh,
And I tell you what, before I go on to the Patreon questions,
yeah.
do you miss that?
I miss parts of it, if you know what I mean. But I don't miss the danger. I can't put myself in that danger anymore, if that makes sense to you. I've seen what it does to people. I've seen what. It sounds bad. This I've seen how motorbike racing wrecks lives and families. I've seen it. You know, people. After I retired, I've lost some friends after that point.
Yes.
And I've thought, if I'd carry on, was that going to be me? Was that going to be my family? Do you get?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You were talking about your bang moment. You were talking about.
I walked away before the big bang, before the blackout, before everything goes black. I walked away from that, and I'm still here today, for good or for better or for worse. Like, but there's a lot of guys after that have lost their lives and left kids and left wives and left girlfriends, and I kind of looked at it from a different perspective, if that makes sense. It wouldn't stop me, wouldn't slow me down, but it sort of meant I'd got out at the right time, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and you can't go forever. You know what I mean? I was riding against William and Michael and like young lads.
You've ridden against the greats.
Yeah, and there were. You know what I mean? We're talking. You know, mega, and you know, it can be a very sad sport, can't it? You know what I mean? When it all goes wrong, it's gone wrong in a big way. Like, you know, so yeah, I probably did the right thing walking away, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. And here on the back of a black van in the middle of the planet TT with 2 dudes,
a bottle of wine,
of white wine,
and some chili crisps.
It's got to be done. But I tell you what, Piggy, before I go,
Do you get a bit nervous and whatever, you know?
With him?
Oh, you know, when you
kills me. Absolutely kills me. I'm more nervous now for him than I ever was for myself. It's horrendous.
It's shocking, isn't it?
It's horrendous.
You don't realise you don't. So you're having all fun.
No, but my dad does it.
Oh no,
Kids,
yeah.
You know, growing up,
Yeah, kidding, yeah.
doing the same
That's
thing.
not happening.
But is it worse being someone else's kid? I see your kids aren't racing, are they?
No.
I don't think it matters if who it is really. If
It's just it's who you're with, innit? It's who you.
Yeah. It's who you.
Yeah. Who you're supporting, who you're helping out, you feel almost responsible, don't you?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah,
You can't help that, and it's
it's weird, isn't it? It's proper. You're so, I don't know. You just don't relax, do you?
No, I pace up and down. I'm like champing at the bit. I'm like, oh my god, you know what I mean? And people look at you and go, what's the matter with that?
Yeah.
These out.
Yeah.
Like,
They go, you all right? You go, yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. You're not, are you? You're all right.
No, you're not all right. No, definitely
You're all
not.
over. You're in bits, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've just got that. Obviously, Piggy's working for Crowe.
Yeah.
It's lovely how Piggy's like worried about the Lincoln Hammer.
Oh, I don't want you mixing you, do you?
No, he's a big lad, isn't he?
He's you wouldn't want to slap off that.
No.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Somebody says to me, says, you went out last night with your Piggy? I says, no. I says, I'm behaving. They went, why? I says, well, I says,
If I step out loud.
I can take a punch off Dom, I says, but I don't think I'd take one off Phil.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare. You're too valuable to me, son. You're too valuable to me.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, that is a cracking question. But you got any more questions before we go on to the patrons, the dreaded patrons?
No, I think get on to patrons a bit, can't
But you have time to
some good ones.
You do have time to think of a joke while I'm asking about these, mate. But I tell you what, I've got one.
Hey, no joke, but
No joke. Hold on, no joke from Piggy. This could be anything.
we run out of taxi money last night, so I had to walk on. Right, so taking shortcut, through graveyard. And hey, couldn't believe it. They dug a grave, ready for somebody sort of thing, and I fell in it. I was that drunk. I fell into this hole. So I thought, all right. So I tried to get out because the deep, aren't they? When you're my height, so I'm trying to get out, and I couldn't get out of this hole. And I've got mud and that under my nails. I'm like, trying to have that. So I thought, well, I might as well just sit in here. I can't do no else. So I just got sat down at the end of the grave hole. And after about 20 minutes, somebody else was coming through the graveyard taking shortcut. And they fell in and all. So we were trying to get out. and I tapped him on his shoulder. I says, you'll not get out of here, pal. But he did.
Oh, for fuck's Oh, Piggy. Oh, Piggy, man.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? Get out of the grave if somebody tapped you and says, you're not getting out of here. You'd be gone, wouldn't you?
You're not wise, man. You're not wise. I tell you what, we'll move on to the patrons after that one. I like it, mate. But we'll move on. But I've got one off Patreon from Neil Martin from the accounting team. Ask him about Phantom Shitter.
Oh, yeah.
What on earth is that?
Oh, no. I can't. Can I say that on here?
Yeah, you can.
Right.
You
So, yeah. Right, so what happened was, we were all coming back from a race meeting once, right, and Kevin Maudsley and all his crowd, basically there was loads of us all knocked about together, the 125 crowd. So Maudsley and all them thought it'd be funny to pelt my van on the motorway with eggs. Well, have you ever seen what it like the eggs?
Oh,
it just goes. It goes rock hard, and you can't wash it off, and it's manky.
You'll get eggs.
Eggs outside his house, man. I went to pick him up for a BSP, and I got eggs outside Rotherham.
Well, yeah.
Beautiful part of the world, by the way.
Well, I've got a little bit of a saying, like, don't cross swords with me, you know what I mean? Because, like, I will get my own back, you know what I mean? I can do it, like. So anyway, cut long story short, we're at Alton Park the next week. I can't say this on here, can I?
Yeah,
I can. I've retired, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
so
right, son.
So I'm walking through the paddock with a toilet roll, obviously heading off to the old Thunderbox, you know what I mean, going to the toilet, like. So I thought, yeah. So anyway, so I saw Maudsley walking back to the garages with a jug of fuel, you know what I mean? And he's I don't even know if I've admitted this to him, but he'll find out now, won't he? So anyway, cut a long story short, I went, all right, okay. So I popped my head in his awning. Hello? No answer. So I went round, up the side. Hello? Oh, nobody here. So right. So I jumped in the back of his van, shut the door, dropped my shorts, and left a big steamer right in the middle of the van floor, like proper. So shoved the bog roll down the back of my pants and off to the toilet I went. So that was it. I never thought now of it. So I cut a long story short. Anyway, about an hour later, the back door, because we all have these big 7.5 ton panel vans, don't we? So next thing, the back doors are wide open, and like there's a big wet patch where they've been disinfecting and scrubbing and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, it's like, there's a big pile of shag in the back of the van. Someone's had a dog in the back of my van and all this sort of stuff. So I never said no. I just kept quiet and all that. And then the penny dropped.
I have to watch it in here.
Yeah. So
have we got any paper?
So the penny dropped that they thought it might be me, you see. So, but I never let on, like. So they called me the Phantom after that, the Phantom Shiter. Yeah. But I would never admit to it, like. But I have now.
How many years on the trip?
Oh no, this is back in the 80s, like, you know what I mean. So yeah. But it's so funny, like, yeah. Where did that come from? Who was that?
Neil Martin.
Oh yeah.
That is outstanding.
Yeah. I'm forgetting all these stories, you know.
Oh my God. What's been the best story that hasn't come from you, if you know what I mean? What's the best prank or the best, like, you got it, you know the stories, it wasn't me, but, you know, we've all heard
no, I don't think many beat that one, to be fair.
The Phantom Shitter is outstanding, to be fair, mate.
Yeah, but they didn't know it was me, see. I would never admit to it. Like, I'm like, no, I don't know what you're on about. I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. And that went on for years, like that, and then never let on that I'd done it. But it was me, like, yeah, it was belting, like, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
You've got to get him back, haven't you?
You've got. You've no idea. Like, I do get revenge, like, big time.
It's got to be done.
Yeah.
Playing with fire, you see.
Oh,
that's the one. That is the one. No, I think, to be honest, we're just going through the questions on this side of things. So it's like, hold on. Checks inbox for invite from Stiff and Skid Marks. But, you know, Rob Pilnet, we've got Pablo, we've got Thomas Clements, we've got Connor Henry. You know, they're just showing the love, mate, you know, on that side of things.
Yeah.
Hold on, Thomas Clements, do you know him? I appreciate your gift. I appreciate your gift from our engagement. Good luck, boys and girls. No, nothing on that side of things. All right. So, but I tell you what, Chris.
Because you were well liked, you know, when you were racing.
Yeah.
You did
Is
have
it not well like now?
Say that again.
But you were, you were always popular, weren't you?
That's one way of putting it.
Can you describe yourself as a rider?
What do you mean?
In 2 words, describe yourself as a rider.
Fast.
Or not? Really fast. No, were you aggressive? Were you angry?
I was aggressive. I was an aggressive rider. Like I was. Nobody. If you crossed elbows, if you crossed swords with me, like there was no mercy. Like I'm telling you now, it was like, I was aggressive, but not aggressive in a. So I did a lot of stuff. I was like big into my martial arts when I was younger and stuff. That's why I was pretty supple, and I could still do the splits. I still do the splits now. That's my party trick when I've had a drink. But I was
get the wine, Piggy.
No,
get the wine. Get the wine.
But, I wouldn't take any messing, like definitely not. And a little man syndrome. You know what I mean? It was like you know what I mean. You know what I mean? If you're getting it like simple, I was like.
You did the splits in that van.
Yeah, but I was.
Were you the rider that everyone feared?
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say so. I don't know. You'd have to ask other people. You'd have to.
I tell you what, when you say, "Oh no, I want,"
you'd have to ask other people what they thought about riding against me, if you know what I mean. What it was like, I can't answer that one. I don't know. I don't know what their opinion of me was, if you know what I mean. Apart from the fact I was daft, like a bit of a loon.
Favourite moment in racing and your worst moment in racing?
Wow. Favourite moments in racing, obviously, there's 2 things that stand out. Obviously, winning your first TT. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And being British champion after trying for so long. So those 2 are pretty equal, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Pretty and when I won my first TT, they played the English national anthem. And when I won my second TT the year after, they played the Manx national anthem. Oh. So I knew I'd been accepted as a Manxie then. You see.
A stopover.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that was pretty special for me, really.
Worst moment?
Worst, just crashes, really, like seizures and crashes and
not winning Northwest.
Don't mention that. Don't mention the Northwest. Whatever you do.
I wanted that so bad though. I did want that, and it just. And I won the Ulster Grand Prix a couple of times as well. I forgot about that. Yeah, so I went there. I went straight from the British Grand Prix as a wild card straight to the Ulster Grand Prix. That was a bit of a culture shock, and I didn't do that well. I think I finished 10th or something. But we went back in 2004 and 2005, and I won it 2 years on the trot, and obviously beat Locker and Dunlop and all them boys. So that was a bit special for me, to be fair.
Anything you didn't do? So like Spa, any circuits, anything that you thought, I wish I did that.
I wish I'd gone to Daytona. For some reason, I wish I'd always gone to Daytona. I wanted to go to Daytona with the banking and all that sort of stuff. I think that would be pretty special.
Yeah.
When I went to Macau, I did Macau 5 times. And the first time I rode Macau was on a V4 500 Grand Prix 2-stroke. So that was pretty special for me to do that. That was. So I rode for Sabersport there that year. And then I think I rode a GSXR 1000, and I rode McGuinness's AIM Yamaha 600 there, and I podiumed the Valmoto Triumph there.
Bloody hell, there's layers to this, mate.
Yeah. So yeah.
Did you like thousands? Did you like riding them?
I did. I podiumed on 1000 twice down at the Ballown. So which people probably don't remember, do you know what I mean? But I actually liked the 1000. Don't get me wrong, it was a bit of an animal on the TT course and stuff, But I got top 10s on a 1000 round here and top 10s on a 600 round here. So I was never going to win on one. Do you know what I mean? My size and my stature, you know what I mean? They just pull you to bits, don't they? But I was quite proud of that, really. Yeah.
Yes, it's not shabby, that is it?
It's just far from it. Far from it. I'll tell you what, I've got it. Before we go on to the housekeeping, I must ask Chrissy's question. If you were gonna, for your final night on Earth, you're going to the bar, and you could bring back anyone from, it could be past, present, or future, not future, but past or present. Who would be your 3 people you take to that bar?
Dear me.
That's
a tough. You should have warned me about that.
No.
Who would
I'm sorry, it's Chrissy's question. You can't.
Past, present, or future? Who would I go for a drink with?
Yeah.
Who would I go for a drink with? I don't know.
Past and present. Who would you take?
Man.
3 people.
Do you know what?
Well, put it for example. Guy Martin picked Hitler, Gandhi, and Putin.
Yeah, it wouldn't be them.
No.
No, it wouldn't be them.
I think they'll leave you with Bill, then, won't they? They'll leave you with Bar Bill, then.
Yeah, and then probably shoot you.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I find that really... I couldn't tell you. I don't know. Because I'd probably pick three and then half an hour later, I'd be like, why didn't I say that? Or why didn't I say that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't worry, it's recorded, so you can regret it later on. So come on, we need three. It's Chrissy's question. It's Chrissy's question. You've got to answer it.
Who would I go to the bar with? Probably my mates.
No. We need names. No. That's not how Chrissy questions work. You need names.
Yeah.
Celebrities could be anyone. Could be absolutely anyone. Hell, it could be anyone that you've never met.
I'd probably go for... Well, my hero when I was younger was Freddie Spencer, and that's who my boy's named after Freddie.
Right.
So I'll say I'll take Freddie Spencer for a pint.
Mint.
And my boys met him here. I couldn't believe it. I waited all my life to meet him, and he was here when we were doing the radio and stuff.
I remember him.
I've got photographs of him together. Yeah, bloody dragged me mad.
Oh.
Anyway, there you go. So so Freddie Spencer. Probably Barry Sheen, maybe.
Barry Sheen?
Because I've had a drinks with Barry before, you know.
Bit of a lad, aye.
Yeah, he's crackers. Miss Wet T-shirt competitions and all that carry on. So, yeah.
Classy, don't ring the spot, Mrs. That man.
Yeah. And who else?
Shit, how many of them are you judged?
Hey?
How many of them are you judged?
Oh, well, no, I don't even know if I was judging. I might just be watching.
Cheering.
Yeah. I once won at Scarborough. yeah. At Scarborough, I once won Mr. Riot of the Year award, and Foggy's missus was one of the judges.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That is good.
Me and Mike Hose were in. Mike Hose was one of them.
He's
and somebody else.
I like Michael.
Yeah, he's a good crack.
He's a good lad.
Yeah. Who else would I go for a drink with? I've got to think of...
Spencer, Sheen.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Number 30. You have to do it. It's Chrissy's question. You've got to
I'll take you for a drink. You can come for a pint.
No, that's shit. That's a shit answer. That is a shit answer. Everyone will be screaming at you now going, that is a shit answer. Come on.
Oh, man.
Anyone.
I'm stumped. Honestly,
you're not
having it. You're not having it.
I'm not having it.
Who would come for a pint with me?
Somebody was a blast.
I don't know.
I've got all night. You go for it.
Well, my old mate Mick that died, then he died of throat cancer, and he was a Geordie, and it would be nice to go for another pint with him because we had many a pint together, many a laugh together, and did some silly things together.
Fantastic.
We did a lot of silly things together.
Say, good man. There you are. We got the answer out of him. Fantastic. Very good. But I tell you what, we must finish it there. That was outstanding. Honestly, thank you so much, Chris. That was fantastic. And Piggy,
it's been good. I've enjoyed it. Honestly, I've enjoyed it.
You've ticked the box now because I'm not being funny. Like after every episode, so me and Grace, so we do this. Grace puts all the hard work in, puts all the edit in, puts it out on social media. The first person we ring is him. What do you make of that one? So the fact that we're actually getting a live direct feed is we're cutting out the middleman. It's ideal.
I just hope it turns out all right. You know what I mean? Because I was panicking. I was like,
but seriously, the patience on you because it was up and down. We don't know where we're going. It's, at the end of the day, we're here practice week. We've had 2 nights cancelled.
Yeah.
And that was the weather. The wet came in, and we've had
RTC.
RTC. So we've had a serious accident on the mountain, and that actually happened at around about 2:00 this afternoon. And it's unfortunately ended up in a scup of the job. So it's a case of. But now we've got tomorrow, which is Friday. While we're sitting here, we've got one more night of qualifying, and then we're racing Saturday. But Gary Thompson and the team are doing a hell of a job because I think we're going to be doing a qualifying before that side of things.
Trying to fit it in as well. It's difficult for them, isn't it, now?
Yeah. Now, bearing in mind, like, for a lot of people, it's a case of people have only got, like, one spare engine. If we have a feeling, so, like, Joe usually, he's not on a big bike, is he?
No, he's not yet, no.
He's just on a Super Sport. So
Super Sport and Super Twin.
There you are. So he's got the 2 bikes, but bearing in mind, he could go out tomorrow morning. It's like, yeah, like Saturday morning to get an extra lap in. If an engine blows,
It better not.
But these are the scenarios that we're playing against.
Yeah, of course,
laps make.
You need
laps.
It can all go pear-shaped real quick, can't it?
Very, very quickly, and you're up against the ropes, and it's like my point getting to this is thank you for taking the time to get in the studio. It's been absolutely fantastic.
You're very welcome.
But I must say thank you to all our patrons for all the questions. Absolutely brilliant. WTF, it's a bit weird saying that because it's normally OMG. I've lost the rhythm there. So thank you so much to WT Racing. Bennetts track days are fully going. Obviously, you get a bike policy, you'll get it cheaper, and you get part of all the infrastructure on that side of things. JC Truck and Trailer Rental. Unfortunately, I tell you what, we saw Lee Johnson walking around the paddock. He's got the cage off his leg, it's obviously a huge. He hasn't been able to attend due to medical grounds, but it's been absolutely fantastic to see him here.
It's nice to see him on the end.
It is, and so JCT are a private personal sponsor of Lee Johnson, and they're kindly helping out with the show, which is brilliant. But we have an individual episode sponsor for this one, and I'm going to have to spell it out because I think that's it. I'm going to lean on Piggy here. That's racebikes.com, isn't it? So if you type
with my eyes,
get the specs on.
I can just
get the
see
specs on. There you are. So we've got I'm going to spell it RACEBUYKZ.com. So the website and socials back up and live very soon to sell your race bikes, classic bikes, as well as parts, motorbikes, and everything ready to go. And now being run by Charlie and Craig. So thank you so much for coming on for this. Please check them out. Please hit the link because at the end of the day, we've got to support each other to keep racing and keep the ball rolling. But for one last time, Chris Palmer, thank you so much, mate. I've loved every second of it.
Thanks, guys.
And remember, everyone, it's worth 30 quid.